Well, good morning and welcome to Fox Valley Headline Makers. I'm your host here today, Tyler Bachman, and joined by, I think, our second time that I've been joined with you guys here in the studio. I'm sitting here today with Lynn Dubajic, who's the Economic Development Consultant for the City of Yorkville.
Good morning.
And then, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Krysti Barksdale-Noble as well, Community Development Director with the city. Thanks for coming in, guys. Like I said, I think it's the second time I've had you guys on. I know you guys have been around our studios a lot. But for those that maybe don't know what you guys do, let's Lynn, start with you and kind of tell our viewers what you do in relation with the city.
So for the past 18 years, since the year 2000, I've been the Economic Development Coordinator Consultant to the City of Yorkville. So I work on actually marketing the City of Yorkville and telling people in the business world why it's a good location to come and grow your business. And economic development is all about job creation and about capital investment, which helps all the residents because it keeps services here, makes people from other communities be able to spend money in Yorkville, have jobs, and it also helps the real estate taxes for the residents because when we bring in businesses, they pay a portion of the real estate taxes, which lessens the burden off the residents of the community.
Right. And so I'm sure a lot of your job is having the conversations with those prospective developers that want to come in and kind of marketing, like you said, to where a good location could be for them and what kind of things that you can do for them.
Yes.
Let's throw it to you here, Krysti, and maybe talk about a bit about what community development really means for you.
Sure. We're the frontline department for the city when it comes to residents and developers and builders in the community. Residents come to us for building permits. They come to us to ask information about their property, what the zoning is, what uses can happen on their property, if they want to do additions. The building community comes to us if they want to assemble property, do large-scale developments, small-scale developments, commercial. So we have not only planning and zoning, but we have our building division as well as engineering.
Sure. Do you handle the bidding out of your office, or is that done somewhere else?
So engineering handles some of the bidding for the public improvements, the public ways. They work with the Public Works Department. So we work with a lot of the departments hand in hand. And then we also have a purchasing manager who handles some of our professional biddings for projects such as a comprehensive plan or a downtown redevelopment plan.
Sure. Lynn, let me throw it back to you. Let's talk a bit about some of the updates on projects that we've been looking at from 2017, as well as a few announcements I know we've had already early this year. I wanted to start with one that you and I just talked about recently. There's a new banquet center, and I believe it's a Montgomery resident who's going to be bringing a banquet center to the City of Yorkville.
Yes. So Eleno Silva, who's the owner of Riverview Diner in Montgomery, he's actually a resident of Oswego, lives in Oswego.
Okay.
And he's purchased the building that people refer to it as the partially finished building in Stagecoach Crossing over at 47, just south of 71.
Yeah.
And he is going to be doing a banquet facility there. Eleno's a very vibrant business owner, and he has a lot of customers that come to him, and they want to have parties, and his facility that he has in Montgomery can't really accommodate the people. So he is going to have, it'll be strictly banquets, so it will not be a restaurant that's opened every day. It'll only be when there's a party. But he is thinking about working with area musicians to have maybe events that he will have the building open for let's say I don't want to say a dance party, but like the big band would be a good example. Like the Yorkville Big Band, he would be able to accommodate someone like that so that they would be able to perform and people could come and listen to them. So it's a nice fit, something that we really don't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Another project we recently talked about, I believe in the same interview, was about an Italian deli that's coming to town.
An Italian deli, yes, Capitano's, which is awesome. That BJ girl, a Yorkville resident, lifelong high school graduate of Yorkville High School, is going to be opening this in downtown Yorkville over by the new YPAC building.
Yep.
And it's his goal to have homemade soups and salads and sandwiches and cookies.
Oh, good.
I love Italian cookies. And then also there's going to be a component in there that's going to be an old-fashioned candy store. And BJ really wants to work with the special needs families and children and offer a way for these young adults to work in the candy store. I know that there's a model that a touch of spice or in Oswego, there's a place, a spice store,
Yeah.
that a pinch of happiness.
There we
is
go.
what it's
That's
called.
it. Yep.
And so he wants to work with that same group and allow young adults, special needs, to have the ability to come and work in the candy store and learn about business.
Sure.
And so it's a really wonderful story. It's a wonderful story.
You know, Lynn, I think one thing I've always wondered and wanted to ask you about is when you speak with these businesses about their marketing, from what I understand, usually the business comes to you, right? Or do you seek them out, I guess?
Both.
Both.
Both things happen, yes. So,
Okay.
so sometimes we see a need for a special type of a business, and then an example of that would be the movie theater.
Okay.
So we were talking about the need for a movie theater. Banquet hall is another one,
Yep.
because we had said that we wanted a banquet hall. So then we kind of search people that kind of meet the demographic of what we're trying to accomplish, and reach out to people and say, hey, we're here and this is what we're interested in happening.
Sure.
And so, and then sometimes people contact us as well and say, you know, we heard about Yorkville, and, you know, just kind of start from wherever their needs might be.
Yeah. Are there specific areas of the city that you maybe try to market, or at least right now? I'm thinking there's been a lot of conversation around city council about, you know, wanting to develop the downtown, and obviously already talked about one. I think the deli you said is going to be down there next to YPAC, who pretty recently just moved down that
Yes.
way. 1836 Drink Lab just opened up down there, and then you know there's a number of other things that are going on. Is that a goal, for example, I guess, to develop that area? Probably a question for both of you guys.
Oh,
Right,
yes,
right.
yeah, yes, absolutely. The downtown was a high priority, it has been, continues to be. And actually, YPAC is actually, that's an additional, they are actually still in their original
Okay.
location, north on 47 in Yorkville, and then this is another satellite location in our downtown.
Interesting.
So, so you never know where your new businesses that are going to land are going to come from. They can even come from your own town,
Sure.
as in YPAC's case.
Sure. Probably one of the bigger projects we talked about last year was the Holiday Inn Express that's going to be coming, or actually at this point I think it's getting pretty near going to be in this area. Tell us about the update on that, where that project's at right now.
So they've started construction, and they're going to start putting the second floor on, maybe even perhaps later this week. And then they're about a week away from putting their plans in for their banquet hall, which will be connected. So again, it's like 90 plus rooms and 4 stories tall. And then the banquet facility will be connected, but a separate building, but connected through a hallway, so people don't have to go outside. And that's going to be a pretty large banquet facility. That's going to be probably closer to almost 500 people.
Wow.
There. And the goal, the hope is that it would be open later this year, but at the very tail end of 2018.
Yeah.
So.
One thing that I always get asked, I remember when I worked in Galesburg, people would always say, you know, oh, well, why can't they bring this A restaurant here or B restaurant here? And I know that's not really how it works. I guess, do you guys have, do you look at, you know, statistics, for example, to figure out what might be a good thing to go after to try and get in your community?
Absolutely. So, but you know, it's where restaurants are concerned. They have certain restaurants that have, and they will announce, and we will get the information about who's going to be doing new stores, new
Franchises
sites.
around,
Yes.
yeah.
So we'll know like what's the potential.
Yeah.
And so some restaurants are on the up, and some restaurants are on the downswing. So, and it's very interesting because it might not be what the normal person would suspect. So sometimes you think, oh, well, there's a very successful restaurant, but they've announced that this year there might be doing minimal amount of growth.
Sure.
So we always try to reach out to them. You know, we're very fortunate though in Yorkville. We have a really incredible amount of independent restaurants that are, you know, when I go on a trip, I try to go to local places because that's what you want to get the flavor of.
Yep.
So
I love Crusade Burger Bar. I've been a huge fan of some of the
yes.
stuff they have down there, and I you know, probably a good thing to lead into is it's kind of a balancing act, I would assume, of trying to get, you know, the franchises, but also the mom and pop shops.
And so, you know, in the beginning, years ago when I started doing this, the national chains said, oh, Yorkville, too green, too green, too green. So the approach that I took at that point was to try to find restaurateurs that I kind of identified in our surrounding area, such as Blackstone.
Yeah.
The owner of Blackstone was the owner of Tribella. in the Batavia, Geneva area. And I started going there and getting to know him and encouraging him to look at Yorkville, because he was a visionary. He was a pioneer in that area off of Randall Road. So that's instead of nothing happening, because we love the Chili's of the world and the Red Robins, but sometimes they're looking for a very specific demographic, very specific. And while I know our residents would love certain restaurants, the dilemma is that we're not quite there with our resident population and our daytime population. So,
Krysti, I wanted to ask you about the senior assistance program. I know, first off, I should mention Cedarhurst is one facility coming into the city,
correct,
as well as Anthony Place, and I think Anthony Place is the one that has to do with the senior assistance
yes. program. So Cedarhurst, which you mentioned, which is on 34 and Cannonball Trail, that is more of a assisted living facility with memory care. But Anthony's Place, which is closer to 34 going east, is more geared toward independent living. So these are apartment styles. It's a 51 unit development. One unit will be reserved for an on-site property manager, and the other 50 units will be rented out. The split is about even between those that are going to be market rate and those that are going to be subsidized. Now, the project itself was subsidized through a housing grant from the state of Illinois that the developer obtained through tax credits. But the units that the city is offering to subsidize rent and utilities are about 3 units out of the 50 units that are available. There's a criteria for income, so you have to be at a certain level of income in relation to the Kendall County area. So it's not a national income level, it's just a housing need in our community. Those units on February 1st will have like an open house so people can come and submit their applications, but we encourage people to submit their application directly to the housing, GC Housing, which is the company Anthony Place is being developed, so that they can do their background check and all the information that they need to have. Qualifications for this program is that number one qualification, if you're a resident of Yorkville and you're a veteran. So we're gearing our program more towards veterans. Second criteria, or you're just a resident of Yorkville, and you meet certain income criteria. What was the
thinking behind making it, you have a better chance as a Yorkville resident from somewhere else?
Well, because when we did our comprehensive plan, we noticed that we had a lacking ability for our residents to age in place, which means that they start their families here, and they grow older here, and then when they're no longer able to live in their homes independently, that they can find, or they want to downsize, they can find those reasonable opportunities, housing opportunities here in Yorkville, so that we can continue the cycle of life for people in their community that they're familiar with. So when we identified that that's a specific need in Yorkville, we did then be approached by other people that are looking for similar developments, which they found that there's a need here as well. So we were prepared for them, and we had locations and the demographic information that they needed, and we had a process in place for them. So those two projects happened fairly quickly from the inception of the meeting to all of the approvals.
Interesting. Another topic I know that had been discussed last year, and I think it's been now in place actually, if I remember right, a parklet ordinance. Essentially, and I think it could be anywhere in the city from what I understand, but it's kind of geared toward downtown because you have a developer come to you or a petitioner come to you.
Correct. So this is something that we have been mulling over internally, just timing wise. We just hadn't had a chance to get to it. Like we're trying to get to a food truck ordinance as well as we're trying to get to Airbnb. That's another thing that's coming up. But the parklet and the sidewalk cafes came out of the need for properties that are in the downtown that don't have a lot of private area where they can do patios, to be able to have that street accessibility, that vibrancy in the downtown. You usually see them in the downtown.
Yeah, you see them all the time in Chicago, for example.
Exactly, exactly. It draws people to the area. It brings more business to even adjacent users that may not have a need for a sidewalk cafe, and it just keeps the flow of people in the area. But they are allowed in all business districts within the city of Yorkville.
It reminded me on the ordinance, I remember it was discussed when it was at city council about kind of there is safety mechanism in place so a car doesn't come over.
Correct. So the sidewalk cafe is just tables and chairs out on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
The parklet is where you take a particular parking stall dimension and then you create like a barrier around for people to eat. Now, of course, these aren't going to be on 47.
Yeah, you're right.
So these are going to be on the side streets. You have Van Emmen, hydraulic, where you can do that. But there are some stipulations. It has to be set back a certain distance from an intersection. They have to be removed. They're only allowed between April 1st and October 31st. There's opportunities to have them a little bit early or stay a little bit later depending on weather, but we have taken all those safety precautions.
And things like plants or things like that, right? I thought that was discussed as well.
Right, so there's different types of barriers that you can use, and there are different types of materials that we are not allowing. So you're not going to see like plastic lawn chairs.
Sure.
Well, we hope not to see that they're prohibited.
Yeah.
But you're going to see more sturdy structures. You can get creative, so you can have some wood barriers with tension wire in between.
Okay.
You can have planting as barriers. So there's a lot of combinations you can do, get really creative. There's kits that people can actually buy online to do this, but yeah.
Have you had a lot of response to this, from people downtown at this point? We
have one particular person that's eager to start, so they may have one of those early exceptions to allow.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have had interest, and we're actually putting a packet together of the parklet and sidewalk information so that people can go online and not just download the application, but just instructions on how to go about meeting the criteria that we've established.
Great. We're going to get to a lot more on new projects and also some other programming in the city. We're going to take a quick break right now. We'll be right back here on Fox Valley Headline Makers.
The color in my garden keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. They're my savior. My name is Lola Silvestri. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at America Let's Do Lunch.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to Fox Valley Headline Makers. Tyler Bachman back with you, and again here joined today, Krysti Barksdale-Noble, Community Development Director here with the city, and Lynn Dubajic. Lynn, thanks for being in with us here today, and same to you, Krysti.
Thank you.
Wanted to get back and make sure we did talk about it. We've got a lot of new projects here in the city, and one that we didn't get to in the first half, Go For It Sports. That's a huge new facility that's over there off of kind of near 47, but it's along Galena.
Galena, yes. And it's 58,000 square feet. And I have to say, when you go into it, it is like, whoa, because it's 72 feet tall.
Yeah.
The span is amazing. The facility is amazing. And the amount of people that are already kind of got the buzz of what's going on there. There are teams using it, whether it be soccer, baseball, Our local athletes are using it.
Yep.
They're using it to practice. We actually had a place kicker for the Yorkville football team that was able to go there. He was going to compete nationally and go there and practice.
Sure.
And it's just incredible to now have this amazing facility in our community.
Well, especially for this time of the year,
yes,
too.
yes. And they offer different memberships, walking memberships, so people can go and just commit for 4 months out of the year, like if it's cold out and you don't want to go out and walk outside.
Yeah.
I believe if you go around the track 6 times, it equals a mile.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of walkers out there, a lot
Right.
of people, so it's a great thing, and there's lots of availability to when the track is open.
Yeah.
Because even during evening hours when the turf is being used, the track is available.
And from what I remember, it's not even just turf, right? Don't they? I thought I remembered something about basketball courts or some kind of.
They have a movable basketball courts, and then other things that they're going to be bringing on. And then there's also programs that they're hosting, whether it be dodgeball for kids, kind of like not an open gym, but where there's actually people can have their children go there and then participate in different things. There's also going to be leagues,
right.
Their own leagues that they're going to have there. So it's just sky's the limit. And I would just say, if it interests you at all, go and take a look at it, because it's an amazing, and it is a labor of love.
Sure.
I mean, Justine and Jason Brummel have a special needs child, and then there's that whole component with the adaptive sports that they have. They've hired a young man from the area that was involved in Special Olympics, and really his goal is to create a Special Olympics team for our area, and they're 100% behind it, and it's amazing what they're going to be life changers for people on so many different fronts.
And I don't live too far from that area. I drive by it every day when I go home after work, and one thing that probably most people don't find as interesting, but I certainly do, is I really thought that the facade on their office space area and their parking lot was very nice.
Oh, it's
coming off the road.
Yes. And they've got a party room there, so people want to host birthday parties for kids. It's just amazing what they've been able to accomplish and get going there, and like I say, the potential of what it has to reach so many of our residents.
Right.
It's from little children all the way up to older adults will be able to use that facility.
Sure. Lynn, let me ask you, and like we were just saying off air, it's usually not until it's finalized when some things get announced. Is there anything so far this year that you guys kind of have up your sleeve that you're looking to take care of at this point?
There, Tyler. There's a few things in the works, but we can't comment on them now. We could just say that whether it be a couple of new restaurants coming our way, perhaps maybe fast food, perhaps maybe not. So stay tuned.
Yep, absolutely. We'll have coverage of it. All right, Krysti, let's talk about some of the other programming in the city. One of the big things that you and I spoke about earlier, or late last year, was online permitting, and something that you guys are doing now, where smaller developers, homeowners who are looking to develop their home, can kind of save some time and can do some things online.
Sure. So a couple of years ago, we kind of had this idea that we wanted to be more paperless in our department. That was one of our goals. And part of that was we started scanning all of the old permitting information, all the old plans. So we've scanned probably over about 5,000 files already. So when people call and ask, they do FOIAs, we have that information ready. So another component of that is the building permit process. It actually, as our society is transitioning to more convenience, we decided to kind of get our feet wet with a program software that we already have, that we do our property maintenance tracking. So people can go online to the yorkville.il.us website, just search permits, and then there's a portal that'll take you. So there's over 50 permits available, from single-family residential permitting to a pool that you can fill out. It populates itself with some of the information that we need. You submit it, you can track it online, you can see where it is in the permitting process. We haven't gotten to the stage yet where we can accept payment online and you can just print your permit out, but that's our goal. We want to get to that part as well.
And this launched earlier this month, right?
It did, January 2nd. So the website is live, so check it out. Even if you just, tinker around with it and then don't submit, but just get familiar with it, it's something that we're going to really push more in the next few years.
And I was going to say, I remember when we talked, you're like, well, you expect it to kind of be slow at the start, but to hopefully ramp up. So
absolutely.
And remind me as well, part of this was a bit of a test run in aspects, because you could also expand on this program if it goes over well.
Yes, if it does go over well, we're looking to expand to not only doing submittal of permits, but we can issue permits online to you. So some of the quick ones, so we have roofers come in, those permits are issued right over the counter, and that takes about 10 minutes internally. But if we can have them submit pictures, and then they can print out their own permits and put it up, that's something that would be fabulous, as well as for larger scale development too.
Yep. Well, speaking of permits, let's talk a bit about some of the build permits and I guess on the scope of overall for the city based off of 2016 to 2017. What are we kind of seeing in the city of Yorkville?
So 2016, we're about 152 permits, and that included that one permit for the Built to Honor, which happened in Autumn Creek, where Pulte gave a home to a veteran. And then this year we were at 154. So that may seem like, okay, we didn't do a little bit more, just a little bit more, but compared to our contemporary communities around us, we were heads above. You know, the nearest community, I think, was Plainfield at 140 permits. So we're doing good, and I think it's indicative that we are steady now in the market. We don't anticipate to do much more than that number, which is also healthy. Our comprehensive plan said that we should be issuing about 100 to 101 permits. We have about 6 years of inventory based off of that, of lots available. So that's steady growth.
Do you see that steady growth kind of over the period, I don't know how far you look out, but maybe 15, 20 years?
So our horizon is usually a 10-year horizon, and in that 10 years we have about 6 years of, like I said, lots that are all ready to go. But built in that, we also have about another 4 or 5 years of properties that have been approved for general concept but haven't been subdivided. So we have room to grow, and it should be steady growth.
Were you very involved with the whole special census update in terms of that? Because I know we're sitting right about 19,000 or so right now.
19,022. And I was peripherally involved. That was more the administrative department. But what's interesting about that is we do our projections online internally for our department. So we contact the individual developers, kind of anticipate what they're thinking about building, and we kind of project. Our projection is for every home that's built, there's about 2.7 residents that are generated. And so we use this information to share with the school district as well. And if you go online, you can see our estimate for 2018 was 19,005. So we weren't that far off. So we think I'm headed in a good direction as far as our projections and what our expectations are.
So, and I wanted to ask you too, there's been differing opinions, and elected officials on the city council made the decision about the build program, obviously, and that's ended now. Do you take that into account when you're looking towards your permitting?
Sure. What we noticed with the build program, last year we had a higher number of builds versus single family. This year we had almost an evening out where you had builds coming down less, and then the single families kind of increasing a little bit more. We do take that into consideration. People are going to still come to Yorkville. We noticed that when we did our surveys that people who weren't necessarily looking at Yorkville had it in kind of their periphery. So we still anticipate the builders are going to advertise, do a great job with selling that.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll end on this as we only have about a minute left, but you guys recently won an award for the comprehensive plan. Wanted to make sure we talked about that.
Oh yeah, it was a great experience. It was a 2-year experience. We had our consultant, Lakota Group. We did win the state award for Illinois at the APA, and it's just it was a good experience because it shows you that how important planning is. Any place that you have that you cherish, that you go to, understand that it has been planned or it has been preserved, and that's where planning lies in this community.
Yep, and your goal setting, obviously, it's done on an annual basis each year, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me on the program today. Lynn and Krysti, we're very glad to have you here. Have a great day.
Thank you.